Why do I play every video game on the hardest difficulty? Well, before I get into this video, I should say not every game I play on the hardest difficulty. A lot of turn-based games sometimes come with a decent enough challenge that makes you strategize, so I'll usually play those on normal, unless I really love it like Persona, then I'll go through it on like Nightmare difficulty, or what they call it, Merciless difficulty. Action games, though, I am always on the hardest difficulty, and I absolutely adore super bosses, Souls games, Kingdom Hearts super bosses on critical mode, all those sorts of things. So how did I come to just fall in love with this sort of thing in video games? I've always been someone who is easily distracted. I get bored very easily, and even when I'm playing a fun game, if it doesn't challenge me or make me think hard and strategize, I do get quite bored, and a big reason for this is the concentration. When you are playing a harder difficulty, you have to focus. Especially in games like Dark Souls or Elden Ring, if you're not focusing on almost every move your opponent is doing, you are going to die. This happens a lot in fighting games as well, and when I actually stick to one fighting game, I get pretty darn good at it. When your brain is always filled with chaos and can never really quiet itself down, when you find something that actually does that, you usually gravitate towards it. And I actually think video games, especially challenges in video games, are pretty healthy for people and mental health in general. When I get in the zone in a Souls game, it genuinely brings me a calm. I get to relax and my brain is shut off because it's focusing on something directly that is stimulating me and really interesting to me. There's also that feeling of accomplishment. When you put games on their hardest modes, you're going to be forced to get better at it. You're gonna gain more skill by the end of that game. And if you just start playing a bunch of games on hard mode, you are gonna get very good at video games, trust me. And this video is not to say you should go play on hard mode or really trying to convince anybody. This is a personal story of why I adore it so much and what video games honestly have done for me, specifically JRPGs or RPGs in general. Super bosses to me are no joke like hopping on a fun roller coaster. The music kicks in, the boss is about to do some crazy moves and I'm gonna have to figure out how to beat it, dodge out of the way, parry him into oblivion. It genuinely sends me on a ride, and I'm always interested in how are the devs gonna make them different from the last super boss I've done, or just what music are they gonna put in this time that's so fun to listen to. Also, for me personally, when I really love something, I want to get really good at it. So I always enjoyed these games so much. Kingdom Hearts was my favorite game growing up as a kid, and I'd replay it over and over, which usually leads to playing it on harder difficulties. And when I fought those data battles on critical mode, oh my gosh, I found my special thing. I don't play competitive games too much anymore. I used to love competitive shooters, and again, I was pretty good at those, and it was because I would obsessively play them and try to get better than I was at the day before. I love RPGs and hard bosses much more though, because these games are just creative. They immerse you in a beautiful world, they tell stories, so usually when you go fight a boss, it has story significance. Sometimes it's even a villain that you just want to absolutely beat the hell out of just for doing evil things to your team or protagonist. It adds a lot of stakes to it, so I always love immersing my brain in that and just going on my own imagination ride, you know what I mean? I love creativity and just being immersed in these games. It also provides some of the coolest cinematic videos you can watch. Like, have you ever seen a bunch of combo videos for Devil May Cry 5 or just really cinematic Souls combat videos that people make? I think these things are so cool, and one of my favorite things to see on like Twitter is my friends beating a boss and seeing how they did it, because it provides so much player expression. Even in games with very minimal variation in their combat, people are going to approach these challenges very differently. And it doesn't even have to be super challenging, like let's say just the final boss. It's going to provide some sort of challenge, right? It's the final boss. So people always go through it in the way that they feel is best and how they could beat it. And that is always interesting to me. Turn-based games actually have this really well. Like, your team is usually going to be built very differently than your friend or another person, so that's also really interesting. I also usually like to stream these games, so that also adds another factor, because when I'm playing like a really hard boss and I'm sitting there for 3 hours, it's really fun to hang with my chat or homies and them rooting for me or laughing at me dying over and over. It just brings almost like a sense of competition, like you're watching a football game, except for big nerds. Again, not every game I play, I'm going to put it on the hardest mode, especially if the combat is kind of mid. I definitely won't put it on the hardest mode. I'll just get through it normally. But there really is something so fun to me about playing a game on the hardest difficulty or fighting super bosses. Like, if a game doesn't have post-game super bosses, I actually get kind of butthurt, which I know they can't expect every game to have that, but Kingdom Hearts kind of spoiled me. Aside from Souls games as well, which those usually keep you on the edge of your seat the entire time because everything in your environment wants to kill you, so those bring me a sense of calm by keeping my focus on the entire time on the game. But another great reason is the build-up. Like, usually you're chilling in a really pretty JRPG town, you're buying your equipment, you're sailing across the seas, something more relaxing, and the challenge comes when an actual stake hits the story. And again, I think that's really good for building tension or suspense. When a game builds up some crazy villain or disgusting monstrosity, I want that thing to kick my ass if it actually looks intimidating. You know what I mean? If it doesn't, I just kind of sit there like, oh, okay. But when the game is building its story up correctly and you go to fight a boss and it is literally just kicking your ass and that's how the story made it seem beforehand, I just love it. I think it's way better way of telling a story than movies or TV shows ever could. I know it's just a personal opinion, but I truly believe video games as a medium has the ability to tell some incredible stories because it's placing you in there and you have to participate. It's almost like placing yourself in the shoes of these characters. Like, they're struggling in the game, so you gotta struggle a little bit playing the game. So I love it so much. I wanted to give you guys just this almost little background story of why I mostly play every game on hard mode and gravitate towards super bosses. So let me know, do you enjoy just heading through games on normal or even easy mode? That's cool. Do you like hard modes like me? If you do, let me know some of your favorite super bosses or games you like to play on the hardest mode. I'm genuinely curious. So hope you guys enjoyed this little bit of shorter video on some background of the Swice gaming history, and I hope you guys have a fantastic day as well. I'll see you very soon in another video. Peace.